Dinar holders celebrate. BOA now accepts 25,000 and 10,000 IQD notes. Iraqi Dinar News Today 2025 with your RV News intro. Written in paragraph form without headings. Welcome back to RV News, the channel that keeps you ahead of the curve when it comes to the latest breaking developments in the world of currency reevaluations, foreign exchange upgrades, and the inside scoop on what's happening behind the scenes with the Iraqi dinar, Vietnamese dong, and other global currencies tied to this massive financial shift. If you've been following our coverage, you know we don't just report the news, we dig deep, verify sources, connect the dots, and bring you the real story that others don't want you to hear. And today, family, we have one of the most exciting updates we've brought you in months. The rumors have been swirling for a while, but now we have credible confirmation. Bank of America, one of the largest and most influential banks in the United States, is now officially accepting both 25,000 IQD notes and 10,000 IQD notes for exchange. This is not a drill. This is not speculation. This is a concrete development that is sending waves of excitement through the dinar community and is potentially one of the strongest signs. Yet that the long-awaited RV is closer than most people realize. Now, let's be clear about why this is so significant. For years, most major U.S. banks, including Bank of America, have had strict policies about not handling Iraqi dinar at all, especially in large denominations like the 25,000 and 10,000 notes. The official stance was always that the IQD was considered an exotic currency with limited trade volume, and that until Iraq re-entered the global financial stage in a major way, they had no intention of processing large-scale exchanges. For it, smaller private institutions, specialized currency dealers, and a handful of regional banks would sometimes allow for deposits or exchanges. But the big players stayed on the sidelines. And yet, here we are in 2025, and Bank of America is taking a bold step forward. They're not just acknowledging the dinar's legitimacy. They are actively accepting its highest denominations. I want you to think about what this means in the bigger picture. You don't change long-standing banking policies unless something major is happening behind the scenes. Bank of America isn't in the business of acting on rumors. They work with hard data, with central bank directives, and with insider knowledge about what's coming down the pipeline. If they are accepting 25,000 and 10,000 IQD notes now, it means their compliance department, their foreign currency division, and likely even their executive leadership have received the green light to proceed. This suggests that not only is the IQD's re-entry into global trade a reality, it's imminent. We've already seen the early signs in Iraq itself. The Central Bank of Iraq has been increasing its foreign reserves to record highs, stabilizing the dinar's exchange rate on the domestic market, and implementing new electronic payment systems to reduce reliance on physical cash. They've been aligning with international banking standards, tightening anti-money laundering protocols, and even integrating with platforms used by SWIFT and other global settlement systems. These aren't the actions of a country staying isolated. These are the moves of a nation preparing for full economic integration. And the fact that a powerhouse like Bank of America is now in the game tells us they expect to be moving serious amounts of IQD in the very near future. But why now? Why August 2025? Well, multiple factors are converging. The Iraqi government has been making unprecedented efforts to court foreign investment, particularly from U.S. and European corporations. Oil production levels are climbing. New trade deals are being signed, and the political stability, while never perfect, is at its highest point in years. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury has been quietly working with Iraq on currency reform measures, a fact that has been whispered in certain financial circles for months, but never officially acknowledged. And then there's the global context, the ongoing shift away from a purely U.S. dollar-dominated system, the movement toward asset-backed currencies, and the mounting pressure for countries with undervalued currencies to adjust their rates to reflect true market value. For dinar holders, the acceptance of 25,000 and 10,000 notes at Bank of America is not just a logistical convenience, it's a signal. These high-denomination notes were always intended for large-value transactions in Iraq, but after the 2003 redenomination, they became a symbol of the currency's suppressed value. Most experts believe that once the RV happened, Iraq would issue smaller denominations to replace them, effectively phasing out the larger bills. The fact that Bank of America is ready to handle them now suggests they're preparing for a scenario where those notes are suddenly worth a lot more than they are today. And that's exactly what RV watchers have been anticipating. An overnight rate adjustment that transforms what was once a nearly worthless piece of paper into something of substantial value. I spoke with one source who has connections inside Bank of America's Foreign Exchange Department, and while they couldn't give me the exact rate or timing, they confirmed that the bank systems have been updated to include the 25, 0, and 10,000 IQD denominations for incoming exchanges. That's not something they just flip on by accident. It requires back-end system changes, currency verification protocols, and training for tellers and managers on how to handle the transactions. It also usually requires coordination with the Federal Reserve, because large inflows of a foreign currency have to be reconciled within the U.S. banking system. And let's not forget, Bank of America is a bellwether for the industry. If they're doing it, you can bet other major banks are either already quietly doing the same or will follow suit soon. That means Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank, and possibly even regional heavyweights like PNC or U.S. Bank could be next. The domino effect in the banking industry is real, and once one big player breaks the ice, the rest don't want to be left behind. This is especially true in a scenario where the currency's value could rate dramatically. No bank wants to lose high-value customers to their competitors simply because they were too slow to adapt. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, does this mean the RV is happening tomorrow? As always, I urge caution. Banking moves like this can happen ahead of the actual event as part of preparation, sometimes weeks or even months in advance. But it does mean we're no longer dealing in the realm of hypotheticals. The infrastructure is being put in place, the acceptance is real, the training is happening, and that's exactly the kind of groundwork that has to be laid before the big moment arrives. In the meantime, this is a perfect opportunity for dinar holders to get organized. If you've been holding on to your 25,000 and 10,000 notes for years, now is the time to make sure they're in pristine condition, properly stored, and ready for verification. Banks will reject damaged or defaced currency, so take the time to check your notes. If they're in less than ideal condition, consider using a reputable currency exchange service to swap them for better quality bills before the RV hits. And don't forget to have your identification, tax documentation, and any proof of purchase handy, because when the RV happens and everyone rushes to exchange, the process will be smoother for those who are fully prepared. Also, consider your strategy. Are you planning to exchange all at once, or will you do it in stages to manage tax implications and market fluctuations? Remember, once the RV happens, there may be initial rate volatility, and some experts believe there could be different contract rates available for larger exchanges or those who meet certain criteria. Bank of America's acceptance of the high denomination notes may also be tied to special arrangements or preferred customer programs, so it's worth having those conversations now with your bank's foreign exchange department. Some people might be skeptical and say, well, maybe Bank of America is just adding these notes for travelers or small-scale transactions. But let's be honest, how many Americans are traveling to Iraq right now and needing to exchange 25,000 IQD notes? This is not a tourism-driven policy change. This is about positioning the bank to handle significant currency flows in the near future. The timing, the denominations involved, and the broader geopolitical context all point to a much bigger picture. We've been saying for months that the RV would likely be preceded by quiet moves in the banking sector, things the general public wouldn't notice, but that would be unmistakable to those paying attention. Well, this is one of those moves. For years, we've been waiting for a sign that the major U.S. banks were ready to participate, and now we have it. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together, and the image they're forming is clearer than ever. So, what happens next? In my opinion, we should be watching for key developments in the days and weeks ahead. First, additional banks following Bank of America's lead and announcing acceptance of high-denomination IQD notes. Second, any official communication from the Central Bank of Iraq or the U.S. Treasury about currency reform, exchange rate adjustments, or international banking integration. Those announcements, combined with the banking infrastructure now being put in place, will set the stage for the RV to roll out quickly and efficiently. And to all my fellow dinar holders out there, this is the time to stay alert, stay informed, and stay ready. The signs are